Chapter 3 of Poppy Playtime releases in a couple months, and today I wanted to go over everything we can expect to drop from the next couple weeks up until its release. From trailers, teasers, the ARG, and much more stuff confirmed officially by the devs. Like the video if you end up enjoying, but let's get right into it. So basically, if you didn't know, Chapter 3 in their second teaser trailer was confirmed to have a release date of sometime winter this year, which is weird considering winter barely starts until 2024, but we can assume by that they just mean around the holidays of 2023, either in November or December. However, in between then, they've announced a ton of content coming in the next few months, which I made a big timeline of everything we can at least expect to come and at what time. But to keep things simple, starting with early October of this year, we can expect two new things. Firstly, the Monsters Immortals DLC, which is a DLC first announced in early 2022, but is finally set to release this October, including characters like the Player, Kissy Missy, Boxy Boo, Huggy Wuggy as the boss, Cappy as a trap, and of course it will take place in Playtime Co. Now, the developers have said they were holding the release of this to a very specific date, so some have speculated it could have something to do with Chapter 3, or at the very least some sort of update. I'm not exactly sure, but there really isn't any proof behind that. However, a lot of people are also interested in October of this year because on the 12th, it will actually be the anniversary of Poppy Playtime, which, as I've already talked about on this channel, is going to be massive because it will firstly mark 2 years of the game being released, but more importantly, the developers have already confirmed that on this day, they're going to be releasing a brand new BTS video showing off a bunch of unreleased stuff that got scrapped from the game. Now, on the surface, this doesn't inherently mean all that much outside of maybe us getting to see some cool unreleased characters and stuff like that. However, what makes this actually matter a ton is, like we said, we've been waiting for an update on things like the Chapter 3 ARG for what seems like months at this point. And last year, you might remember in 2022, the developers actually held another anniversary video for the game's first anniversary, where in the video, they first teased the infamous Project Playtime ARG, which lasted until the game's eventual release, which, like Chapter 3, was also winter of its respective year. So going off by patterns, this seems to suggest we might actually expect an update onto the Chapter 3 ARG on this anniversary, especially since while we're discussing ARG updates, I recently made a video talking about how people were digging into the files of the ARG website after last week it mysteriously got updated with a brand new mail icon, and just the other day, a new file from the ARG was leaked that shows off an email conversation from Playtime Co characters Elliot Ludwig and Leith Pierre that reads, "From Elliot Ludwig to Leith Pierre, grab pack concept, June 23rd, 1981. Hey Leith, one of those dang Huggy Wuggies is loose." Which just on its own is a crazy piece of news because it essentially proves that there were tons of Huggy Wuggies inside of the factory and that the Playtime Co founder Elliot Ludwig was working with the live monsters. However, while obviously they've since deleted this message since we weren't supposed to see it at all, the most important thing about this is that it tells us that the developers have been updating the ARG behind the scenes after multiple months of us not getting any sort of news, giving me and many others the impression that they are preparing for something to release, say, around the time of something like the anniversary in a couple weeks, giving the impression we might get a Chapter 3 update on the anniversary, which I talk all about in this video here. However, moving into mid to late October, this is when we can roughly expect the Chapter 3 gameplay trailer, since the developers on their Discord server have actually told us before on a couple occasions that the Chapter 3 release date won't be a surprise drop or anything, and at the very least they were planning on dropping a gameplay trailer before announcing the actual release day, meaning before any sort of release dates or VHS tapes or anything else comes out, we need to expect a gameplay trailer first, where presumably for the first time we will finally see what the chapter looks like outside of the cinematics. Now obviously the developers have done gameplay trailers in the past with both Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, but what I found extremely interesting is that looking at Chapter 2 specifically, they released that trailer in February of 2022 before the game released in May of that same year, nearly 3 months later. And as of right now, there's only 3 months left in the entire year, meaning that assuming things line up the same with the Chapter 3 trailer, it could honestly release at any time now since the year is literally almost over. I mean, we know the developers have been working on the trailer for an extremely long time, as early as April in 2023, where they told us they were planning on adding cinematics and gameplay into it, most likely explaining why it's taking so long. However, generally speaking, in this trailer, we can expect a few different things. One, we can expect a reveal of the monster who they have intentionally kept secret in their newest teaser trailer to most likely build anticipation for this new one. And along with this, we should finally get to see not only what the play care looks like, but also what some of the new gameplay mechanics are going to look look like as well. Because if you didn't know, over the past few months on this very channel, in anticipation for this, we've discussed a ton of different updates the developers have confirmed about the gameplay, confirming there's going to be new grab back hands, new graphical updates, tons of new games and puzzles, all of which we could presumably expect to be shown here in this new gameplay trailer. Of course, in terms of exact release dates, it's basically impossible to know for sure, to be honest. The developers usually really like to hide release dates for things extremely early, but there haven't been any hints anywhere. And honestly, judged by the fact that we still have no trailer with a couple months left and the game isn't set to release until the very end of 2023, and there's already been pretty big delays, like the Chapter 3 ARG was originally meant to release this past June with the Chapter 1 remaster, but was delayed until late July. I have a feeling, honestly, that both the game and the trailer have probably been pushed back from when they were probably expecting to release it. So to be honest, I don't think even they know when it's going to release, and I would just expect it to come out whenever it's done. However, moving into early November, the next thing we can expect is a release date announcement and also presumably the end of the Chapter 3 ARG. Like we mentioned, the developers have told us that the release date will be a separate announcement from the gameplay trailer, and also at the same time, if we use Chapter 2 as a benchmark, they didn't release a second trailer or anything. They literally just made a Discord post revealing when it was going to come out. However, in my personal opinion, I actually think, judged by what we know about the Chapter 3 ARG, I wonder if once we complete and finish it, if that could be the final reveal of Chapter 3's upcoming release date, because at least with what we saw from the Project Playtime ARG, they usually like to give us rewards for completing different puzzles, like how the Project Playtime one at the end had a reveal for Boxy Boo, and honestly think this time we will get some sort of release date, or at least some big piece of news out of it, since it clearly seems to be the highlight of the entire Chapter 3 rollout, and there are a lot of things people have been wanting to know about it. But then finally, in late November to sometime in December, we can finally expect the game to actually release. Once again, there's no time frame, and even defining what winter 2023 means is all speculative, but it seems like at the earliest the game will release around November, if you can even consider that winter, and then at the latest maybe mid-December, because you have to remember the developers are extremely smart when thinking about when to release this game, and they are 100% going to release it in time for Christmas, when people are going to be buying more gifts and having more money to spend. There is absolutely no way this doesn't drop in the first couple weeks of December, if not even earlier. It just wouldn't really make sense, and also it wouldn't do very well if everybody was focused on spending time with their families rather than what Huggy Wuggy is up to. So I would generally say to expect the game to release either in the late weeks of November or the first, maybe the second week of December, and probably not anything else unless there's some sort of serious delay, which, as I talked about earlier in this video, is extremely possible with how long this game is taking. And while everything I discussed thus far in this video is based on what the developers have said previously, it's also completely possible that things have moved around or have been canceled or even possibly delayed. So I'm going to knock on wood, but I wouldn't put a delay or something out of the realm of possibility, since I don't think the developers have ever released anything 100% on time outside of maybe Chapter 1. So delays, whether they be minor or major, are definitely to be expected. However, that's the entire release timeline of Chapter 3, but let me know your thoughts, subscribe, and peace out, guys.